Let go of me! Oh shit! You're done! Over here! Where'd she go? Damn it! Look out!
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. So it occurred to me that the UK is just absolutely, completely fucked. So I thought, alright, righto, it's fucked, it's a write-off. So, how would you go about fixing it? And, like, I couldn't really come up with like heaps solid answer, but I come up with a few good little steps to fixing it. I'm not 100% sure like what order you would want to do these steps in. Like, because like the whole system's fucked, right? The media's fucked, it's like state-owned. The police are fucked, they're like two-tiered policing, they're giving preferential treatment to Islamists. Islam itself is, fucked in terms of culture. You've got, child marriage and support for terrorists, no gay rights, no women's rights, etc. The current top 10 terrorist organizations are Islamic. You're obviously got a really big problem because you're like still mass importing that culture into the UK, and that culture is at least incompatible with like UK culture, like just in terms of free speech and assault, child marriage, etc. Like the whole lot of it. Like in Islamic theocracies, Islamic individuals are considered superior, and it's like a second-class citizen sort of deal for everyone else. Like they can literally do kind of what they want. They're not like taxed, whereas other individuals from other religions and cultures are taxed under the jizya. Like, and the UK is just so fucking stupid for like mass importing all those people. But like small amounts of them, and if they're like recognizing their governments are fucked and willing to try and integrate into like a new society, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, this isn't racist either. Like, if you had to call it anything, you would call it bigoted, but even then it's not bigoted because it's a justified criticism. I'm not saying it like applies to every single Islamic person, but it is a justified criticism of Islam in general. But anyway, let's move on. Let's see if we can fix the UK. Right, first of all, TV licenses, i.e. state-funded media, has to go, period. The pro-left, pro-totalitarian government bias alone is, like, enough. But, like, in addition to that, they also hide, like, immigrant crime, the crime of pedos like Savile, and, like, obviously the grooming gangs. And, like, frankly, it seems like every other day someone in the, like, BBC is getting outed as a pedo as well. Like, it's the last thing, like, taxpayer money should go to, is, like, supporting these people and, you know, putting this bias out there into the world, basically. Like, if like, all that weren't enough, like, in regard to, like, Tommy Robinson's case, like, the media used, like, taxpayer funds to gain, like, non-disclosure agreements from witnesses to prevent, like, an anti-immigrant narrative. Like, that's just absolutely unacceptable to use taxpayer money for that, for, like, a political, you know, partisan issue like that. That's just fucked. Like, all of that I disagree with. And I especially disagree with the idea that media or government, like, uses NDAs to, like, hide policy failure. Like, especially, like, policy failures that they are, like, directly responsible for. So, step 1, abolish TV licenses, stop taxpayer funding the media. Go, you know, it's obviously state propaganda then, it's not technically media. That will just force left-wing, you know, liar shitbags to exist in the marketplace of free ideas, where they may tread water for a little while, but, you know, they're eventually going to go under. Righto, second, a proper Bill of Rights with a proper First and Second Amendment and self-defense rights. Like, just these last couple of weeks, we've seen what, like, two-tier Keir, like, absolutely and completely fumble any sense of justice at all. We've seen, like, police assaulting and imprisoning, like, innocent, peaceful protesters, like, to the tune of, like, thousands. And, like, many people for just, you know, regular hate speech, like, a term that's, like, fucking awfully defined by the left, and, like, even worse, it's, like, terribly enforced with, like, you know, two-tiered political bias, you know. Like, hate speech itself directly clashes with, like, a person's freedom of speech and, like, ability to choose their own politics. Like, that's just, you know, entirely fucked. Like, you basically, you know, Soviet-era level politics then. You're basically getting sent to jail for your politics. Political persecution, big time. And if you, like, take it to, like, even further, like, a Christian silently praying head out in front of an abortion clinic, just, like, in protest, was arrested. Like, are you fucking kidding me with that? Like, you don't feel like fucking communist pieces of shit at all? Like, that's just, like, complete fucking scumbag. In addition to that, obviously, Second Amendment, right to self-defense, absolutely necessary. Like, the police and state are just failing to catch violent criminals of, like, particular religious persuasion, let's say. They're also, you know, obviously persecuting, like, legitimate protests and, you know, political dissidents, basically. But, like, you know, obviously just failing to prosecute the Muslim protests and the Muslim counter-protests that were, like, outright assaulting people and just marching around with, like, fucking machetes, which is just... that's just absolutely unacceptable, that. Like, there was assaults... yeah. It was like predictable, obviously, like all of this, when, you know, the government just took gun rights away. This was like always possible. And like, it, you know, it obviously didn't disappoint. Like, it's just a fucking terrible idea. Like, delegating your, like, personal safety, ability to, you know, provide self-defense for yourself and your family, obtain justice, like, just delegating all of that to, like, a body. Like, best case scenario, politicians are, like, normally just, like, narcissistic like, sociopaths. Like, that alone's, like, a fucking bad idea. Like, it was a problem then, but now you've got, like, a government consisting, like, a bunch of, like, not only that, but also, you know, the radical left ideologues that will, like, literally put you in prison, are looking for a reason to put you in prison if you, like, disagree with what they say. If you say things like, Islam is inferior to Christianity because of the Islamic institution of child marriage. Like, that alone, they would probably argue is, like, hate speech or something. It's like... Alright, third, you need a Conservative Party that is not leftist-controlled opposition. You need a Conservative Party that will actually stop importing child marriage apologists and terrorist sympathisers by the tens of thousands into the UK unchecked, against public will. Fourth, you need serious police reform. The current quality of policemen in the UK is fucking absolutely atrocious. From 2022 to 2023, you've had nothing but compliance with, you know, edicts to enforce hate crime laws. There's been like 8,241 hate crime offences. Like, hate crime is just regular crime with a consequence multiplier on it. It's like fucking absolute nonsense. It interferes directly with the impartiality of law, with like direct political and, by extension, of political racial bias put into it. It's just utterly unacceptable. Like, a certain class of people may get preferential treatment under the law based on race or politics. That's just unacceptable. Yeah, sorry, like, doesn't fucking matter. Don't care if they're black, don't care if they're a friggin' trans, don't care about any of that. That they would receive more lenient sentencing under the law is absolutely fucking ridiculous. This obviously extends to, you know, equal police treatment of Muslims and the English as well. Like, it's not equal at the moment. The English are getting persecuted far more than Muslims are by either the right or the state itself. It's just, there's no argument there. And like, the last time I checked, like, dirty atheist, leftist, you know, Marxists are allowed to, like, criticize religion, so, like, everyone else should be able to. Like, especially, like, not just religion, but, you know, direct backward cultural practices like child marriage, which is like straight up pedophilia in the West. You can't get around that. That's that. And like, the reason why, like, it was accepted in that culture, which would be, you know, direct criticism of Muhammad, like, you're not allowed to criticize that under this, like, hate speech, you know, stupid piece of shit law. Like, it should be obvious that cultures aren't equal. Like, that's not a racist thing to say. Some cultures practice, like, cannibalism and directly consume prions. That culture, and, like, others that, you know, justify sex slavery and child marriage, like, not naming any names, are obviously not equal. All cultures are obviously not equal. It's not racist to say that. There's been, like a fucking ton of scandals and riots and crimes, like the grooming gangs and the grooming gang cover-ups, the unrest, the mass riots. Stop importing, like, cultures that, look, if you're not willing to say that their culture is inferior, like, out of cowardice, say it's, like, incompatible in terms of rights and laws. Like, that way you're not putting a value judgment on it, so it's not technically racist or bigoted. Yeah, like, you can't have freedom of speech in the UK if you have Islamic majority. You can't have laws against pedophilia if you have an Islamic majority that installs Sharia and wants child marriage. Like, these things are like one-to-one. It's like obvious, right? Just stop importing that inferior culture. Like, it makes no sense. Like, especially when the inferior culture's stated goal is to kill or convert using, like, direct force. Like, you have to be fucking stupid, like, to look at the history of Islam, like, the multiple genocides it's responsible for, and the genocides were out of direct two-tiered societies, right? They were based on Islamic supremacy, blaming a religious, it wound up being race minority. Like, there's a brilliant book about it. It's called Operation Nemesis. It's about the Armenians, after they got genocided, were seeking justice. So they assassinated all the perpetrators of the Armenian genocide. Operation Nemesis. Great book. But yeah, Islamic societies are two-tiered societies with, like, Islamic superiority. It's literally no different than fucking Nazis, and Nazis thinking they're superior. Only there's no race element to it. It's pure ideology. But, like, one-to-one, especially in terms of taxation. The Islamic individuals aren't taxed. Everyone else is taxed. They are taxed until they convert. It's considered, submission to Islam. It's like a completely bad idea. The current religious authority of Islam is Iran. The supreme leader, Khomeini, in, like, Iran. It's like a fucking terrible idea to, like, mass import Islamic people. Like, you can't get around it. Like, are you fucking stupid? Why would you do that? Knowing the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, can issue a kill order, like a kill order bounty, that will give individuals, like, a life-changing amount of money for them or their families. You're letting people that would, take that bounty into, like, a Western free democracy. And, like, these people are, like, willing to be martyred, like, religiously speaking. So they're not afraid of the consequences. So you're asking for a crime to happen in your country by doing this. And, like, what was it? I can't remember if it was 40% or 60% of Islamic women in the UK are on benefits. Now, I'm not going to criticise them for that. They've come from, like, an oppressive country. That's fair enough, but there is a cost to the benefits from, like, the taxpayer. It's just fucking crazy. At the very least, you shouldn't be bringing in criminals or people that are not willing to integrate to, let's say, Western values. Values of free speech, etc. If you're directly importing people that want to install Sharia and destroy freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of protest, whole lot of it, install a two-tiered Islamic supremacist society where Islamic people have preferential treatment under the law, and you're okay with that, you're betraying your country people by doing so. Like, it should be fucking obvious. But, like, okay, if that's too much, if you absolutely can't stop the boats for some fucking stupid reason, it's not to the benefit of anyone economically speaking. The economic arguments all fall flat when you take into account the benefits and the cost to the taxpayer. They don't actually bring any value in at all. Quite the contrary, actually. Especially in terms of policing and the civil unrest you're causing, and, like, the cost to police, the mobilisation of the police, the mobilisation of helicopters, mobilisation of tanks, the use of riot gear, all that sort of thing. Once you factor all of that in, it's obviously costing the country money. Like, obviously. But if that's not enough, stop putting the fucking immigrants in hotels at, like, taxpayer expense. and like 60% of the people want lower like immigration, that's just pointlessly incendiary. Like, especially like post-COVID policy that you all agreed with, that did real fucking economic damage to people, and during like a green energy transition that will probably ultimately fail, that's driving up the cost of everything with energy and transportation costs. Like, what are you, stupid? You're failing in your duty and you're abusing your people. Like, that's all you're doing. And it's like fucking obvious. Like, you should be considered like a traitor. A traitor to Britain. Like, all of that is just fucking out there. Like, you've got British people, like, just getting crushed. Absolutely crushed under the cost of living. And then you're supporting immigrants that have like moved here that are not going to bring any, you know, real value to the country, that are in fact causing problems that are costing you more money through policing, installation of a police state. What did old, you know, Keir Starmer want to do? Install more fucking totalitarian facial recognition software and all that sort of shit. Basically, yeah, give the government more power. Yeah, that's the fucking problem. But like, all of it's like all obviously bad. And it's like just obviously incendiary. And it's like just deliberately insulting the right. Like, the right have already been betrayed, let's face it. The right wing in UK, they weren't represented by that fucking party. Look, they did nothing about fucking mass immigration. Like, a right-wing populist government would have done something. But no, they did nothing. And once everyone realised that the fucking right wing were fucking gone, they figured, okay, we'll give Labour a shot, we'll see what they do. They might be better. They're not fucking better. They're obviously going to be fucking way worse. So your choices are, what, centre-left, controlled opposition with the Conservative Party, or radical left with the Labour Party. And, you know, both of them are left, and both of them are fucking leading the country to absolute ruin. Fire police officers in the event of, like, obvious wrongdoing. Like, the power differential there, because you've taken away gun rights and the right to self-defense, is fucking stark, and everybody knows that police are fucking corrupt and, like, two-tiered. So what would help alleviate some of the tension? An internal mechanism to fire the most egregious of the police officers, like abuse. It's already gone pretty far. Like, I'm not sure how much this will work as like a pressure relief valve, but like they've already done like thousands of assaults of like anti-immigration protesters and all that sort of shit. So like, I don't know how much good it's going to do, but if you were aiming at installing like a pressure relief valve to, you know, take some of the pressure off society, all right, stop the boats, install some internal mechanism to punish the most egregious of the cops. Like, I saw a video today where a cop was they just randomly bashed like a protester right in the head as he was walking past with a shield. And like, that's just fucking straight up assault. I don't care if you're a police officer or not, that's just assault. And that's just absolutely unacceptable, especially from a force that you've delegated, you know, most of your safety and ability to defend yourself to. It's unacceptable, right? They've got to be politically impartial. Like, they're obviously not, but they got to be. Yeah. In addition to that, you need either a mechanism to deport immigrants that break the law. Let's say they're innocent before they came here, you've done your job properly at the border, and you've weeded out all the criminals. Like, they haven't done that, but let's assume they have. Once they break the law within like a certain time period, let's say like 1 or 2 years, there should be like a mechanism to deport them, like straight up, back to the country they came from, whether they're fleeing persecution or not in that country, whether they're an apostate in that country, whether they're fleeing charges in that country. deport them back to that country, period. Like, no tolerance of it. You want to come here and break the law? Nah, get fucked. Get out. But if that's not enough, well, it's not enough because they were already also importing people with, you know, criminal records. And if they're not importing people with criminal records, they will be importing people guilty of breaking the law in the UK, only they did it in their own country. Let's say, for example, getting a bunch of immigrants from Turkey, where the child marriage is atrociously high. If they have participated in a child marriage or a child muta marriage, they are by default guilty of pedophilia and grooming. So they're automatically, you know, should be considered criminals, yes? By any sane stretch of the imagination, by any sane stretch of Western law. Yeah, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Why would you have no check or balance against that? Why would you import someone that may be a pedophile into the UK against your laws? And, you know, obviously, after that point, it's like culturally conditioned into their behaviour. They probably won't be able to, you know, help themselves. Yeah, why would you do it? So you need some mechanism to not only deport people who are innocent that came here, that wound up doing criminal actions when they're here. You also need to, I would say, be able to get some sort of criminal conspiracy charges going that allow you to persecute people and mosques, like entire communities, that facilitate, let's say, kill orders from Iran or whatever, that, you know, conduct terrorist attacks. There should be some sort of conspiracy charge where you can charge all the people there, and if not, deport them. Well, if not, charge them and, you know, sentence them to prison, just straight up fucking deport them. It will get the case through, and it will probably reform Islam a bit in the UK, if, like, the very worst, like, collectively being punished like that. The good Muslims will not want the bad Muslims ruining it for them through collective punishment, so they'd be more likely to inform, etc. They are, after all, guests in the country. They're not entitled to any, like, special treatment. They're not entitled to any special understanding. Even if they have, like, fled, you know, disastrous dictators, and hey-ho, look at the result of most Islamic theocracies is, you know, disastrous dictator. Yeah. Some sort of collective treatment for mosques, so you don't get this underground bullshit, terrorism complicity, I guess you'd call it. Because while not all of them are involved with it, that's true, there is a sickening level of acceptance of it, and while not direct promotion of it, there's like a silence with regards to Islamic individuals when you talk about terrorism and all this sort of deal, and killing and converting non-believers. Like, you can see it already in, like, fundamentalist Islamic acceptance or rejection of gay individuals, right? Like, they done like a poll on it. I forget where it was. I think it was like somewhere in Gaza. Is being gay acceptable? And it was like 100% or something. Fucking said no, it's not acceptable under any circumstances. So, like, right there, you're importing direct conflict between yourself and, like, the LGBTQ Marxist community. And, like, the Marxist community would be mainly made up of atheists as well. Atheists in, like, Islamic doctrine, you know, you gotta kill them, right? Like, you gotta kill the gays as well, technically. There was like 4 ways of them. 4 ways of killing gays. It was like burning, throwing them off a cliff, beheading them, or collapsing a wall on them or whatever. Like, just, you know, straight up. So, you know, all that's fucking unacceptable, especially in the West. But yeah, I mean, that's how you'll fix it. Like, and that sounds fucking horrible and brutal, right? That sounds like dictatorial and fucking, yeah, just awful. Saying you will collectively punish like an entire mosque if individuals within that mosque are found to be terrorists. And look, yeah, it's pretty fucked, but it also increased the snitching within the Islamic community, and that's like what you want, right? You want people giving up the terror plots. You don't want the terror plot to succeed and for them to kill like 20 people unanswered and then be martyred. And like, you don't want that going, you know, happening again and again and again and again in the UK. Like, that's fucking unacceptable. Like, I don't know what the left are fucking imagining that Islam is, but they have no clear understanding of Islamic principles or Islamic history. Like, they've been around for a while, and pretty much every war they've had, they've, you know, either done terrorist or directly attacked civilians. Like, that's including the Kashmiri War, Bangladesh, the whole deal, September 11, October 7, the terrorist proxies in Israel, Hezbollah directly firing rockets into Israel's civilians. It's a way of life for them. It's how they've always operated. And the political powers in their countries are always radical. In Iran, who's funding all the proxies, who fucking Biden gave another $100 billion to, it's always radical. So, you know. Sort of collective treatment of mosques. By the way, we should not be building mosques with taxpayer money. Like, the Christian right, the atheists, no one's represented by that. Like, that's another thing you can fucking stop doing. And the symbolic doing it deliberately over, let's say, old churches or burnt out churches that have been demolished, fucking unacceptable. That is metaphorically Islam, you know, conquering England. England and Christianity. English culture, English identity. That's fucking unacceptable. Fucking stand up for yourself, you fucking degenerate politicians.